Thanks for coming here, man.
Yeah.
Steven Young is the man. What's the other? Do you have another name? Atohi? What is?
Yeah,
That's your
Tohi.
brand name.
Yeah, it's a brand name. So it's just like a pen name, something to hide
That's awesome.
behind.
A tohi.
Yeah.
What is it?
So like my heritage, I come from like a Cherokee background. Like my great great grandmother was a Cherokee princess, and like when my family moved over, they instantly married into like the Cherokee family. Like my family came over on the Irish potato famine. So like I have that heritage. So I decided I would go with a Cherokee name. It means the woods.
The Woods.
The woods.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
I see some Indian in you.
Mhm. Yeah.
So do you what percentage do you know?
No, I don't know. I've never taken a test or anything. We just have our.
Because I heard there's some compensation or some kind of college scholarship for your kids or something like that if you're like
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even think you have to be 100%. It's like,
It's low. It's like
Mhm.
it's like 12 or 15 or something.
Really?
Yeah.
So
So like that kind of provision was put into place specifically. I feel like if you were oppressed against in some way, like if there,
right.
like that compensation was meant for someone who struggled coming up, but I didn't. Like I grew up middle class and
Right.
as a white kid, so it feels almost wrong.
No, I think there's compensation if you are 100% or some kind of huge percentage of your
Yeah, I
Heritage.
think there is.
yeah, I think what he's saying is that even if he was able to get it, like he wouldn't feel
He wouldn't
wouldn't
feel right.
feel right, like
Yeah, he
picking
doesn't
out of
feel
that
right.
pot. Yeah, no, like completely can understand that.
yeah.
Like-
That's Josh Benzier on the other side of the conversation. If you haven't noticed, there's a third voice. He's my buddy here at the office. So man, so you're a photographer in Charleston. Thanks for coming, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Tell me about your background.
In photography.
Just tell me about your background and then kind of merge over to photography, how you got started.
Cool. Born in Atlanta, moved around a lot as a kid. Probably moved like 7 or 8 times as a kid. Didn't initially get into photography at all. I went to school for biology.
Where'd you go to school?
UAB in Birmingham, Alabama. Went to school for biology. I was working as a musician most of the time, going through college, and still not doing any photography at that point. Got out of college, graduated, and got married, and started touring the national parks, Zion National Park, Yosemite, like Yellowstone. We did all those for like 2.5 months. We were kind of camping around. As a wedding gift, we got a really nice DSLR. And so that whole time that I was kind of adventuring around, I was playing with this new DSLR. And I found that I had like a bit of a passion for it, in that limited amount of time.
What year was this?
So that was 2000. I've been married 6 years, so that would have been 2012. Right?
So you graduated
2011.
2011.
Yeah. Graduated in 2011, started shooting in 2012, shot an engagement shoot, just a friend's engagement shoot that year, so 2012. And they asked me to shoot their wedding later that year. And I shot another friend's wedding. And I was like, this is a lot of fun. I'd love to pursue it more. So I put up a website, and that was pretty much how it all got started, I guess.
How'd you end up in UAB?
Good question. So my older sister went to pharmacy school in Sanford, which is also in Birmingham. And UAB, when I was first picking that one out, it had one of the best optometry schools
Okay.
in the Southeast. And at the time, I was thinking I would end up doing optometry.
Did you live in Birmingham? Oh, so you were living in Birmingham?
Yeah,
What?
Birmingham,
Man.
downtown Birmingham.
So you have a biology major.
Yeah,
Dang.
I'm really, really putting it to use now.
Spent a lot of money.
Don't say that. Don't remind me.
Oh, gosh. But that's where your wife's a nurse or a doctor?
She's a PA.
She's a PA.
Yeah, and she went to college Charleston and then to MUSC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So that's why I ended up moving here.
Because she went to MUSC.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So from there, 2012 was your first wedding?
Yes.
Or 2013?
2012. Would've been my
How was
first
that?
wedding. It was good. So what I did is I hired a second shooter who had shot a bunch of weddings, and I told him the situation, and I essentially paid him a little extra to like assist as lead shooter because I didn't know what I was doing, and I would recommend that. I think that's a good idea. Like you don't know as much what you're doing. Make sure you have somebody who can kind of cover your bases and help make sure that things are done correctly. But at the same time, like it was a friend's wedding. It was a smaller wedding. It was kind of done, more on a budget kind of thing. So
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun.
So what were you shooting then?
Uh,
Like gear wise, what'd you have? What'd you shoot? What gear did you have for your first wedding?
I think it was a Canon T3i with like a 24-70. I think that's what I shot.
Just had one. Did you have a backup camera?
No.
So it was you just rolled up there, your Canon 3 Ti and 24-70.
Yeah.
How
Were you
wa-
scared?
No. I don't think
You're
I
like,
don't think I
didn't-
was because it was a friend's wedding.
Did you have a flash?
Yeah.
The on-camera flash or off-camera?
No, I rented one.
So those Canon T3Is, like normal Canon lenses, they don't work for them.
Yeah, they do.
Do they really?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
do now. I think there was a time in which they didn't like to. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was one
They had
different mount.
It was a
It
different
wasn't
mount.
a standard Canon.
Oh.
EF
Now
or
they do
whatever, I
work,
don't
so
think.
you can buy a T3i and just an
Yeah.
L lens.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was using a Tamron 24-70. Another lens that I rented. I think the only lens I owned was a 50.
You rented a Tamron,
Mm-hmm.
and that worked. I guess you just get a mount. I guess
Yeah.
I tried it before for some reason. Maybe it was the older camera that you're talking about, Josh.
Yeah, I think there was a different. It wasn't EF or whatever. I think it was.
Where was the wedding? Was it here in Charleston?
No, it's in Birmingham.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, it was blessed.
What so you shot your first wedding, and then there was another wedding, and then you moved to Charleston. When was your first wedding in Charleston?
Ooh.
Do you remember? Do you remember what place, what location?
I don't think I do. A long time ago now.
It was probably what, 2014.
Yeah.
A lot of things
2000
happen.
2013 probably.
You know what I noticed with this industry? A lot of things happen within like the last 3 years. 3 years ago, when I shot a wedding, is completely different now. It's like 2019. 2018 was completely different from like 2015.
Yeah.
Like I just can't pinpoint what it is, but it's like so different.
Yeah.
So do you shoot other things outside of weddings?
Yeah, I shoot portraits mostly for fun, and then travel and do a lot of landscapes also mostly for fun.
Yeah, I love your travel stuff, man.
Thanks.
I get jealous. You're like traveling everywhere. It seems like every month. Like
Yeah.
he's been to like you went to. What is that place in South America you guys went to?
South America?
Or was that South
Oh,
America?
Patagonia?
Yeah.
You went to
Yeah.
Patagonia.
Yeah.
Wow. I'd like to see
Incredible.
some photos from that. It's pretty
Show
incredible.
'em to you.
Yeah,
It
nice.
was a lot of fun.
Where's your next trip? What are the places you went to last year? You went to
Shit.
Cuba last year.
No.
Or was that set? Was
I
that
think the
16?
year before.
That was 16.
Last year I did Canary Islands, Majorca, Spain, Madrid, Spain, London, Amsterdam, Slovenia, Italy, Cinque Terre. I did Costa Rica last year, I think.
Damn.
Canada. Yeah.
How many
I counted it up over the last 3 years, and I've done like 17
Countries?
Countries, something like that.
Holy cow.
That's
Yeah.
moving.
Yeah.
Who do you go with? You went with Pat to Cuba. Who?
Yeah, I kind of got lucky. Like my family is really big into travel, so like especially like my little sister and my brother-in-law, like they love to travel and travel almost as often as I do. They lived in Chile for a year and a half down in South America, so I get to travel with them a lot, and then of course with my wife a lot, and then with any other photo friends who want to go. Like Pat is one that you mentioned, but also Brian. I don't know if you ever met him.
Yeah, I've never met him, but we're Facebook friends
Yeah.
or
So-
internet friends.
That's who I just went to Europe with, and we
How was
were
that?
in the Mediterranean and stuff. It was awesome. So the Mediterranean this time of year is like mid-60s, and there's no one around because normally the Mediterranean is like a beach hub or a beach hangout. But in the 60s, obviously, it's not. It's just there's no one there, and it's in the 60s. So it's pretty phenomenal from a photography standpoint.
Right. What do you do? Did you go to Morocco at all, or?
I did not. We essentially just hiked, drank beer, and shot cameras.
Dang. Where'd y'all stay?
Airbnbs. Yeah.
So you booked that here through Airbnb, and then you just, man, you guys are pretty brave going to these countries.
I haven't really ever had a problem in all of my travels with
Really?
theft or fighting or.
Yeah.
I had one time I was in Uganda, and one of the army guys like came up to me. It was like clearly like trying to like swindle me out of dollars. He was like threatening. He was like, "You're not supposed to be over here. Like I could call somebody and say you could be put in jail or whatever." And I was like, "Dude, I don't have any money." It went on for like 5 minutes, and then eventually he was like, "All right, you can go." I knew.
No,
what
really, I don't have any money.
I knew what he was doing though, so I was like.
Was he speaking English?
Yeah, he was speaking broken English, but English.
Was he saying, "Give me some money"?
He was trying to be more subtle about it, but essentially that's what he was saying. He was like, "You could be in a lot of trouble right now if I made a phone call." You know, like.
What were you doing?
So I was close to the airport, and there was like this big body of water, like mountains around, whatever. So of course I walked out there like with my camera, and I was like, "I'm gonna shoot something." And that's when the guy came over and he was like, "You're not supposed to be shooting in this area." And I was like, "There's no signs. Like, how was I supposed to know I wasn't supposed to be shooting in that area?"
Yeah.
And
Was he by himself?
It was him. Well, it was two of them. Yeah, two of the guys.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But you literally did not have any money on you.
No, I did. I just told him I didn't.
What if they like patted you down and like
And search through my stuff.
searched through your
I
stuff?
mean, I guess he could have done that, but I felt like he was, you know, bluffing or, you know.
What would you say? Like, I don't have any money, man. Don't have it. Yeah.
Yeah. Luckily, I actually, so like whenever I travel, of course, I try to spend like the very last bit of local currency right before I left. So in my pocket, I had like one of their dollars. I can't remember what it's called, but it's worth like, in our money, it's worth like 10 cents.
Right.
It's almost worthless.
Yeah.
So I pulled it out of my pocket and like emptied, you know, my entire pocket and was like, "This is all I have."
Did he take it?
No.
He was probably like, "This guy's
I
broker
think-
than me."
Yeah, I think he was like, "You're worthless."
Did he know that that you're an American or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think you can miss that I'm American when I'm in Africa.
Yeah.
Normally when I get like when I'm in Central
Well, what
America
about
or
South
something-
African? They kind of look like they're.
Well,
from
that's fair. That's fair.
American.
But I wasn't South Africa.
But when you were there, you're like the only white dude walking around.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. Especially like in a ball cap and like skinny jeans. Like I don't fit in there. at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. You don't look like their kind.
Mm-mm. When I'm in like Central America or like South America, I can normally get away with it. I'm a little bit tall for
Yeah.
them, but other than that, I can normally get away.
Yeah.
Just looking like more like a local.
Or you're subtle, you're quiet. So unless you're in Africa, everywhere else you kind of blend in.
Yeah.
Except for the Georgia cap. Well, it's
And
kind of
Georgia cap,
old.
yeah.
What's with the Georgia cap, man? You went to
This
UAB.
is my granddad's cap. It's
Oh,
from-
it is?
Yeah, it's from the 80s.
Dang.
Yeah, I grew up going to Georgia games with my granddad.
Are you a Georgia fan?
Yeah. Born and raised. I didn't go to Georgia though.
Why? Yeah.
My
Well,
family did.
that was my other question. Why didn't you go to Georgia?
Because they didn't have an optometry school.
Ah,
That's the short answer.
they lost last year, man.
I saw.
I saw.
In case you didn't know.
I saw.
I watched that. I remember that.
That was an awful loss. I knew they were going to lose after they were celebrating the first half. And then
Yeah.
towards second half, they were like, oh, crap. They put in Jalen Hurts.
Mhm.
I was like, that's it.
It didn't feel good
That
as it was
sucked.
coming down.
That's, yeah. I
as
was
a-
hurting for y'all. That
As
was,
a Georgia, I mean, I'm a Falcons fan too, and like just a few months before, the Falcons had lost that 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl against the Patriots,
that was terrible.
and so we had
Oh, that was.
back to back, like
Was that the same year?
yeah.
Serious upset.
Well, it was like
It was like 2 months. The next month, the January.
it
Yeah.
was like the next
Same season.
It's
No?
either the same season or it was
I don't think it
like the Super Bowl is the very last game of NFL season and the college and national championship.
within
So
12 months.
Yeah, within 12 months. Point being.
That was terrible. I think
Yeah.
there was a meme that don't ever go to Georgia or something like
Yeah.
that because the Falcons lost and then
Yeah.
Georgia Bulldogs lost.
Yeah, it was brutal.
They can't finish or something like that. It was a funny meme, but
Yeah.
yeah, I was on a cruise when I was watching the Falcons loss. I was like, oh my god, they even brought the owner down
Yeah.
on the field to get ready to celebrate.
Stop.
Yes.
Wow.
They had and then Oh, I bet he was pissed because they had him on camera. Like, they were getting ready to celebrate. And, yeah, and then they still kept him on camera the whole time. He couldn't walk away. He should have just had, he should have
gone back.
That was
Yeah.
that was a smart director though. Whoever was
Oh my God.
directing that from wherever they were like, keep the camera on the coach
Yes,
or the owner. Keep
the
the camera on
owner.
the owner. All right, now give me the owner.
Yes,
You know,
the
like-
owner's wife.
We're gonna create some serious drama here.
Just
Some-
get that emotional.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man. Are they going to be good this year?
Who, Falcons?
Georgia.
Or Georgia. Yeah, Georgia should be good for a long time. We've had an incredible recruiting class, so
Yeah.
we should be able to keep it up.
What's his name is transferring to...
Justin Kelly,
Yeah.
yeah, the quarterback. Yeah, he says he's going to transfer. I don't know if he actually has done it yet.
Where's he going?
Never heard.
Ohio State?
Never heard.
Fromm is the quarterback, so he's staying, right?
Yeah.
What do you think about Mark Wright?
Richt.
Yeah, or is it Ritt? Is that how you say it? I
our
never
old,
know how to say
our
it.
old head coach.
Yeah.
He's the man. As far as like what Georgia fans think about Mark Richt is what Clemson fans think about Dabo Sweeney. As far as like his mentality,
Right.
he's not as winning as Dabo. But when Mark Richt came in, Georgia was not a winning program, and he turned it into a winning program. So like instant love or whatever. And then also he has kind of the same like Christian values, like very likable guy,
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So
But he was only winning 9 games. They wanted more.
yeah, he was over his span. He was something like the 7th or 8th winningest coach in a Power 5 conference. And
Yeah.
that's not good enough.
I liked him. Kind of sad for that he had to retire from Miami,
Mm.
you know. Miami's a hard place to recruit, I think. They just have that, I don't know, that culture maybe. I don't know what it is. It's just like Columbia. It's like, it's going to be hard for South Carolina to get back up to, in my opinion, to a high level because it's Columbia. Like,
Yeah.
not that Columbia is not good or not nice, but like if you're competing against like say Clemson, I don't know if you've ever been there. There's like, this is just in my opinion, I could be wrong, but there's a lot of hills, there's a lot of mountain kind of area. It's pretty. There's 2-3 different lakes. It's a beautiful campus. Columbia is like a city, and then the university's there. So, but I'm rooting for them. I'm
Yeah.
kind of feel like they it's good for South Carolina if they do good. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree.
maybe they'll go. I'm sure it's a cycle. I'm sure
Mm.
Clemson will be on the bottom of the cycle one day. Right now, where I'm on the top. You know,
Yeah, it helps coming in with that prestige from previous wins. So like,
Yeah.
as soon as you get up there, it's easier to stay up. It seems.
but it took them a while though. I mean, just like
Right.
Georgia, kind of like didn't really. Well, I think Mark Ritt started that
Yeah.
trend of winning, and then Kirby Smart capitalized on it. Don't
Yeah.
you think?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, like Dabo, it took him a while, like from 2009 to now. It's like 10 years.
Even the year that Mark Richt left, that was his best recruiting class, the one that Kirby Smart came into. So like we were all coming in that year thinking it was going to be a better year, or like the first big step towards a better year. So we were already had our heads up kind of thing.
Why do you think Mark Richt didn't take? Wasn't he offered like some kind of assistant athletic director's position or something
I'm not
when
sure.
Kirby Smart was hired or about to be hired, and he turned it down or something?
I'm not sure.
Maybe that was just a rumor, but anyway, go back to photography. Sorry, we got sidetracked. We love college football, or at least I do.
In the South.
So you're shooting film now, huh?
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
What cameras have you been? You have like a lot of cameras.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as far as what cameras I'm shooting, kind of depends on what I'm shooting. When I traveled, I took 2 Contax T2s, which are like the little 35 millimeter point
Let me
shoots.
see that thing.
And they're super awesome because they're pocketable. So they take almost no room. Like you can just walk around. And they also have a flash on them, so you can kind of get like that party cam, like that direct flash party cam type feel with them. And then the other thing I took was a Pentax 67, which is a massive camera, so I went in the exact opposite direction. But it's awesome because of course, it's a 6x7 format, so this really huge negative to work with and information to work off of.
That's awesome.
What about processing?
So I ship them off to a lab. Right now I'm working with PhotoVisions out in Oregon.
So what cameras do you bring now to like weddings and stuff?
So right now I'm bringing the Hasselblad H2F and the Canon 1V. The Hasselblad H2F is a 645 120 format camera, and I'm shooting mostly 400H out of that.
So you have two H1s
Mm-hmm.
and then 80 lens, and you have the 100 2.2 lens.
Yeah, I just sold the 80 2.8.
Oh, you did?
Mhm.
You don't need it anymore?
Need it? I don't know, maybe. I wanted to give a shot to the contacts, so I decided I would sell the Hasselblad. I'm going to buy a contacts as my backup camera and shoot at some a little bit. Here
Wait,
and there.
you got rid of the H1s?
Just one of them.
Oh,
I
okay.
had two of them.
Okay.
So I still have the other. It's an H2 with the 100 2.2.
You kept the H2?
Mm-hmm. So the 100 2.2 is roughly like a 65 millimeter equivalent.
Right.
So it's a touch longer.
So you don't, that's the only Hasselblad lens you have? Do you have a 45 or?
Right now I also have a 153.2, I think.
Okay.
But I'm trying to sell that one too.
You're trying to sell that?
Yeah.
So did you buy the contacts yet?
No, not yet.
What other, do you have the Pentax? You were selling the Pentax.
I had multiple Pentax 67s. I love that camera. I use it anytime I do like studio portrait type looks. I tend to use that one. And it's so large that I don't want to walk around with it, but I really like the camera. Ironically, that's the one I keep bringing when I travel, so I end up walking around.
It's heavy, huh?
Yeah, it's huge. It's
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say
embarrassingly large.
for traveling, let's say a trip like Patagonia. Obviously, you were hiking a ton.
Yeah.
So you had, what cameras were you carrying at that time? Like, and when you went out, were like leaving them where you stayed, or do you just like bring them with you everywhere? All like handful of cameras, or what?
Yeah, so anytime I hiked, I brought the Pentax 67 and then the two Contax T2s. So I mean, I was carrying it all when I was hiking. Anytime I wasn't sure that I was gonna see a bunch of like beautiful scenery and stuff, then I probably just had the T2s on me. So wow, a little bit easier to carry.
So if you were to shoot a wedding tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
what are you gonna bring?
The Hasselblad H2 with a 100 2.2, the Canon 1V, which is a 35 millimeter camera with just a 50 millimeter lens on it, and then the Canon 5D Mark IV, which is my main.
Oh, you got a Mark IV.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna move that mic closer to you a little bit, but how do you like that camera? A lot of people, there's like mixed reviews, right?
Yeah, I've heard that there's mixed reviews. I love it. I came from the 6D, which admittedly at the time was 4 or 5 years old by that point. But the dynamic range on the 5D4 is so much better than the 6D that I'm able to pull out a lot more detail in the shadows and the highlights and get much, much closer to like the film look. And so it's a lot easier to kind of sculpt a photo. The only downside is with all that information, you do find yourself tweaking maybe a little bit more.
Tweaking it?
Yeah.
What do you
like
mean?
in Lightroom.
Before
you send it out, like, because you have like so much.
Just because you know you can push it a lot
Right,
harder. Yeah.
right. You have so much data
before
to
it
work
degrades,
with.
you're like, yeah, you can.
I also got to the point now with my 5D4 that I typically just shoot everything like 2 stops underexposed.
Really?
Because like with the digital, of course, you have like 6-7 stops of underexposed that you can keep bringing it up, and only a couple of stops overexposed that you can bring it up. So why not just shoot basically in the middle, where you're shooting 2 stops underexposed, so that you have 4 stops of headroom above and 4 shots of headroom below.
Is that how it is? You just shoot in the middle. That's equivalent to 2 stops underexposed.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I never looked at it that way. I thought that's money there if you shoot in the middle. But I guess now that you said that, I was like, yeah, I'm starting to realize like I shoot in the middle all the time,
Yeah.
and I'm like, why is my photo always underexposed? But I like it because you keep more data.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. With digital, you should always err on the side of underexposed.
Yeah.
Just because
It's
it
better
does such
that
a
way.
good job of retaining the details in the underexposed.
So is that a touchscreen camera?
No.
I've never had one.
Actually, I don't know.
It's expensive,
I've never
right? It's like
touched it.
$3,500.
Yeah, I got mine for two grand.
Was it used?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the guy, I think he got it as a present. So the shutter count was like 4,000 or something.
Oh, okay.
Something minimal.
That's the dual pixel AF too, right? Where like you can actually like kind of tweak and fix focus in post.
That's such a good question.
People say
No
say
idea.
that like it dual pixel AF
On photo or video?
on photo.
Really?
Yeah, that you can actually
know
like
that.
tweak the focus a little bit in post because of the way the sensor is. I don't
Is
know.
it on Lightroom? You tweak it on Lightroom or
Yeah,
That's cheating. I know. I've never even heard of that.
yeah. Dual pixel AF.
what? So is it touchscreen for video?
I don't know.
I thought it was.
I've never tried touching this.
What lenses do you use with it?
I mostly use the 50. That's my main go-to. I have a 35 and 85, a 16 to 35, and a 7200. But I would say for a typical wedding day, 85% of the day is with the 50 on.
Yeah.
And then the reception, a lot of times I'll put the 35 on, and the ceremony I'll put the 7200 on. And
That's cool.
that's basically it.
So do you how do you so with film, so it's important to use digital and film at the same time, right? What do you think about that? Like a lot of people are just like 100% film, some people are like half film, half digital. So where do you stand there? How much film, I guess, do you shoot versus digital?
I would say during any fast-moving moments where you don't have a second shooter right next to you backing you up digitally, then I tend to shoot digital. So like if it's a fast-paced environment and I don't have somebody backing me up digitally, I'm going to use digital. In all portrait situations, I'm using film. So the reason I chose those two is because essentially portrait situations are very slow moving. You can kind of create your own environment. You put them in the situations you like. They move at the pace that you want, kind of thing. So you have a very controlled environment. Use film. For anything that's kind of out of your control and it's harder to say, then I tend to use digital. Reason being, obviously, is because with digital you can just like essentially hold down the shutter and get 20 shots in a row. Make sure that you've captured something like them force feeding cake behind the cake table or whatever. So
Yeah.
I'd say I shoot at the end of the day. I normally have 15 to 20 rolls of film that I shoot at a wedding.
And do you shoot like Kodak, Fuji? What's your
Fuji.
favorite? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
400.
400H. Yeah.
So what do you do when it gets dark? Like, do you shoot black and white, push 3 stops? Do you shoot Fuji 400 and push it 3 stops, or?
I've shot D3200 sometimes at like receptions and stuff. Especially I like to put that in the 1V because you end up with this really, really grainy, like think like 1920s noir type look. Like the really glowy highlights. I think that's a lot of fun. But most of the time, once it gets real dark, I'm shooting mostly digital.
That's cool. Man, I love the look of Kodak 800 myself. What do you think about that film?
Portrait 800?
Yeah.
I like Portrait 800. All the Kodak films, they're a little bit warm and a little bit pink for me. And so sometimes the warm pink look has a tendency to look a little orange to my eye.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to like almost like a more even skin tone. So I like the P800. I use it. But I think my preference is still the 400H if I can
Really?
get away with it.
Why do people like that film so much?
400H?
Yeah.
It seems like, to me, the color palette is really refined. It seems the portrait look is a little bit messier, I guess. And the Fuji, especially in the skin tones, it seems like it's very honest skin tones, which is like a hint of pink, whereas the portrait is more like there's like a lot of yellow and pink in it, and so it's almost like a dirtier look. And then it feels like the rest of the color palette kind of follows suit, like it's a little bit more, like I said, refined. Like it's almost like maybe it's missing a couple like colors in between, and so you have like a more focused look, I guess. And then it does such a great job with the highlights.
Mm-hmm.
I think is the other thing I really like.
Yeah. Do you shoot film at all? You shoot film.
Yeah, I just there for a little while, and I was shooting just those Lomo films.
Yeah.
All the different colored ones and stuff because it's fun. But
Yeah.
I never really tried to, take it that seriously.
Yeah. I like the Lomo film. Have you tried those film?
No.
Yeah,
I
like
tried
it.
shooting the Cine Still this past fall.
Yeah.
800. Those are nice, man. especially because they're tungsten film. When you're shooting, film under tungsten light, they turn out pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it a lot. You should try it.
They're fun, and especially like in bright sun. In bright sun, when you're shooting the, I like the one that has the red tint. I can't even remember what the name of it is, but it really looks. It almost looks like an instant, sort of like a similar to like a Polaroid or something, where it gives it that like kind of reddish orange,
Yeah.
tint to it. I think it's really cool looking.
Yeah.
What cameras are you selling now?
Right now I'm selling a Hasselblad 500 CM, and I may pick it back
Oh,
up.
you have that. That's right.
Yeah, I may pick it back up eventually.
You love that
'Cause
camera.
I really do like that camera. I just can't figure out a way to incorporate it into my normal thing. Cause like when I'm walking around and I have the hold fast on, which is like the dual sling camera harness, and I've got the 1V on one hip and the 5D Mark IV on another hip, and then I have the H2 around my neck. Like, where am I gonna add a fourth camera? Especially like the 500 CM is not a small camera either. So I'm not like Virgil over here who have like six cameras hanging off of them.
I was just gonna say it's a lot.
Yeah, I can't do it. Like mentally, I can't process that many cameras. Like I have to like individual moments. I have camera preferences, and then after that, like I can't process that many options.
When you switch from one camera to the other in a moment, and you get Virgil's like, all right, hold on, let me get a few with this one. Let me get a few with this one. Let me get one with this one.
Yeah.
And it's like, even just switching, like when I second shoot sometimes, I switch in from shooting Fuji cameras, right? And one had the viewfinder in the middle, and then one had the viewfinder over on like the left side of the camera.
Yeah.
And then like from the X-T2 to the X Pro 2, and then like pick it up and be like, okay, and then like feel awkward, you know what I mean? Because I'm like reframing. So like, when you're like picking up new cameras, it takes you a second to like, okay, and this one, kind of reorient.
Yeah, well, when you first get the camera, I would say that's definitely true. But as you get more and more comfortable with the camera, and right now I'm only rocking 3 cameras, and they're all, they all have the eyepiece in the middle. So that's not as bad. The only thing is, on my Hasselblad, the H2, the dials are in the reverse direction as the Canon 5D Mark IV. So I often find myself like accidentally taking the shutter speed down instead of up, and I have to. Other than that, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how's it looking this year for you? Are you busy? What do you got going on this year?
Shooting weddings, just like every other year.
When you came in, you were shooting some style shoots.
Oh,
right?
yeah. I'm shooting some style shoots this winter, spring. It's a lot of fun.
When do we see those?
It's a good question. So I shot the first one about 3 weeks ago, I guess, and I'm planning on submitting it to a blog, and then you'll probably see some photos after it gets published, or when it gets published, I should say.
Yeah.
That's when I'll go live with those images. I'd never really tried style shoots before this past year. But it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, I think.
Yeah. I like it a lot. What do you think about a lot of the style shoots out there right now that people are putting out versus, I mean, style shoots been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like there's pros and cons. What do you think about the impact of that compared to real wedding photos that other photographers are posting that are kind of like styled shoots? Like some people are saying, oh, you shouldn't put style shoots on your website because it kind of misleads the bride and the client.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not really in a time crunch. What do you think about? Do you have an opinion about those?
Yeah, I do actually. So I would say that's pretty situational. I have a friend who went to hire somebody specifically to second shoot for them, and then in the conversations after they kind of already hired the person, they found that person had never actually shot a real wedding.
Mm-hmm.
They had just done a couple of style shoots. So I think that's the far end extreme of where it's a really, really bad idea. Like,
yeah.
You no longer are a professional wedding photographer. You're like an apprentice. Like you shouldn't be.
Right.
You shouldn't even be advertising yourself. I don't think until you've second shot or followed around a lead photographer, like done some sort of mentoring to where you actually have real wedding experience instead of a styled shoot, because of course the styled shoot is completely different. And then we have another thing, of course, now it's workshops. Essentially, workshops it's a group styled shoot where like the one main big time photographer will set up a styled shoot, and then put the couple in the right position, and then like, all right, now you guys shoot it. And that's even a whole nother degree removed. Like, you didn't, at that point, like, you didn't even set up the client and put them in a, you know, in a comfortable position themselves. Like, the degrees of removal from you actually capturing that are like 2 away, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, very little of that is you showing off your personal abilities, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
But in the context of, like, in my case, like, I've shot 150 weddings or something like that, and if I want to do, or if Virgil, who shot many more weddings than I have, you want to do something to get a very specific look that you don't have in your portfolio, I think that's completely different. Like, in that case, yeah.
So plus, I don't know if you mentioned the time crunch part. Also,
Right.
there's that time factor.
Yeah.
You know, like the pressure
Yeah.
of the pressure to deliver at a certain small window of time,
Yeah.
and to think on your feet and fast. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you're also not dealing with personalities.
Right.
You're not dealing with a wedding planner. You're not dealing with
Weather.
all of the weather, all the other factors.
Mosquitoes. Well, maybe I guess.
As somebody who's not a super experienced, I'm not an experienced wedding photographer. You know, I've had those moments where I've gotten shook. Like I put, a bunch of people over here to get ready to shoot them, and then all of a sudden a play let out at the playhouse right next to me, and now all these people are walking through my shoot.
I remember that.
Yeah, and at Footlight Players, and I was like, oh man, so yeah, that.
And then you have to manage. Was it 10 guys?
Yeah, 10 guys
And like
who
300 people come out.
Yeah, they're 10 guys. They don't even care. They were like whatever.
They hate pictures.
Yeah. So yeah, like it's a definitely like a huge difference between posting a styled shoot on your portfolio versus what happens in real life and how good you actually are, because it takes more than just pushing the shutter down.
Yeah, I would just say that's just part of the overall equation, because kind of what you're getting at is a client experience. But like, by the time you've been shooting around for a while, like there's plenty of reviews floating around about Virgil or myself, like as far as our shooting style.
Well, so what is it?
Coordinators as well.
Yeah, well, what is the appeal of styled shoots though for photographers? Is it just to practice, test film? I feel like for me, if I were to say yes on a styled shoot, it'd be for practice, because I did some styled shoots, a lot. I think for practice, to test film, to test light, to get maybe some networking, maybe build some relationships with the planner or the decorator or the designer or the florist, right?
Yeah.
Are there any other value for you to shoot style or for any photographer?
Yeah, I think the big
But outside of that,
the big 3 for me on styled shoots is to add something to your portfolio that says something to a potential client that you can, or that you are the person for their particular wedding. Like maybe you want to shoot higher end like maybe you've been shooting more budget weddings previously, but you want to move into higher end weddings. So you want to do a styled shoot where there's all this higher end stuff, where like the table is really set up nice with really nice, heavier, more expensive florals, like all that kind of thing. Another one is getting published. So like styled shoots, kind of for some of the reasons we're talking about, they're easier to get published because you kind of set the pace yourself. And like if it's a rainy day or whatever, then you postpone the styled shoot to the next week.
Right.
Like you kind of get to pick your environment, your element. And then the last one would be networking. Yeah.
Right.
So just like what you just said, I have one friend, another photographer here in Charleston. When she first moved to town, she did like 15 styled shoots in the first year.
a photographer.
Wow.
Just to try and make connections. And
Connections.
network with coordinators
Right.
and with florists
Yes.
and all that kind of stuff, to get her name going on down here.
Yeah, if I was new to a place, let's say if I moved somewhere, that's the first thing I would probably do, is just to do style shoots.
Yeah.
It's a big investment, but it's better than putting an ad on a magazine, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially if you're shooting film. I mean, it could be quite expensive.
And coordinators really, they want to get published, so
Right.
Obviously, it's good for everybody.
And that was one other big question mark in my head. It's like, do magazines and blogs, I guess blogs, they want content, so they would, if you submit it, there will be a blog that will publish or feature your style shoot.
Yeah.
But for a while there, I thought magazines were not publishing styled shoots.
It
But-
seems it seems like it's blog to blog. Like some of them prefer strongly real weddings because they want to tell like real people's stories, but some of them are more like inspirational
Yeah.
magazines or blogs. And in those cases,
Yeah.
then styled shoots are actually probably better because the wedding industry as a whole is normally like 1 year behind because
Uh-huh.
like they see like a single wedding happens in May or whatever, and then you start to see those photos in blogs and stuff in October, and so it's not until next spring that someone has the opportunity to maybe utilize some of those same ideas. So like things tend to be 1 year behind as they catch up to
Right.
last season's styles. So styled shoots, obviously, you can get ahead of that a
Yeah.
little bit instead of getting into that same cycle.
So how do you? So are you on you're on Instagram? What's your
Yeah.
Instagram?
It's just at Stephen Atohi, so StephenAtohi.
And then do you so do you like post stories? How does Instagram work for you? How do you utilize Instagram?
At this point, I mostly just post portraits. I do the occasional stories, but I'm not I'm a pretty private person, so I've never had the urge to take selfies or like post stories of me talking or post stories about what I'm doing in my life, except when I travel. Like
You did post some stories reviewing the album
Yeah, I
of Post
did.
Malone and like
yeah, I did do
killed
that
it.
recently. I did do that recently. So that goes back to like I started off doing music and someone said that I should post on my story. I was like, fine.
yeah.
It's
You're-
fun though. I haven't finished. I have like 3 left.
Were you trying to do like a music review or something? I didn't really watch the whole thing.
I was reviewing each of the nominations for Grammy's Album of the Year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just just watched the Post Malone part because
Yeah.
I like Post Malone.
Do you?
I think he's quite an artist, but you don't think so?
Oh, I didn't say that. I think he has a really good intuition for melodies,
Yeah.
which is awesome. And then my biggest critique is that his songs they're really shallow. And it seems like every song he just wants to be like a club banger,
Right.
which is not, though I'm not saying it's bad, it's not album of the year quality. Like your
Right.
party music is not, like for my album of the year, I want something that we'll remember in 20 years as like,
Yes.
said something about our culture in this time or, something like that.
Right. Because he's just talking about the same things that other rappers are talking about.
Yeah, almost all of his lyrics are about liquor and sex. So
And drugs and
drugs, yeah.
bitches.
Yeah. So it's like,
Yeah.
I know, like
It's like the same thing that's the rap culture. It's always, yeah.
I haven't found.
But
of
the beats are no. I think the beats. I don't think people are listening to the lyrics nowadays. I think, but they just more enjoy about I guess the beats. I don't know.
Yeah, I
I mean,
don't
that's
think
why
people
it's so
are.
successful. But success because it's catchy and stuff is just in my head. It's just not the same as album of the year.
It's not right. It's not album of the year quality. I got you.
Right.
It should represent something more meaningful and something more memorable.
Yeah.
Like
I agree.
if you compare album of the year now, it should be comparable to like the Beatles back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, or did Queen ever win?
I don't know. I've only really kept up with the Grammys the last 10 or so years.
So how do brides find you, man?
Here lately, it's been a lot on Instagram. Used to, I didn't.
Like hashtags or like how
I don't know. That's
They
a good
just-
question of how they found me.
you being
initially.
tagged on something or
It's a good question. I should ask that. But on my contact page, it says like, "How did you hear about me?" And they just put Instagram.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were searching Charleston photographers or something and came across me, or maybe they found me on like a coordinator venue or a florist's Instagram page or something like that, and found me. And then of course the other big one is coordinators. So,
I heard somewhere that hashtags are huge. Like you can actually follow hashtags now.
Yeah, I do. I follow.
Do you follow a bunch of
Mhm.
hashtags? Do you follow a bunch of hashtags?
I
No,
don't
not
follow a
yet.
bunch. I follow a handful.
Yeah.
And it can be a little bit annoying too. I end up unfollowing them because, a lot
There's
of
just so
people-
much.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be way too many.
Especially the popular hashtags.
Yeah,
You know.
exactly.
If you follow Charleston, that's like 1 million hashtags.
Yeah, and there are so many people who don't use hashtags like an actual search operator. They use them to have like some weird added comments at the bottom too. You know what I mean? So like sometimes like the hashtags that I mean, you got to follow like very specific, specific hashtags to like get the content that you want.
Do you think people actually search Instagram based on hashtags? Like, say,
Yeah.
Charleston wedding photographers.
Yeah.
Do you think people actually, like brides, actually go on there and search
I do.
Charleston wedding photographers?
Yeah.
I do that. I mean, not for obviously wedding photographers, but I do it.
Like, what do you search, for instance? Like,
So for a while there, whenever I was, so my girlfriend and I were doing all 47 of the state parks.
Oh.
And so there was a hashtag called when you finish, you get called the Ultimate Outsider. So I was searching. I follow Ultimate Outsider. So there's other people who are camping in all of the parks, and we'd also rigged up the back of my truck like a camper. So I followed truck camping.
hashtag truck camping.
Yeah, it's actually cool because then it pops up like different ideas to like conversions and different things that people have done in the back of their.
From different places.
Yeah, from all over, all over the world. So
yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Same thing. So anytime I travel, I search those hashtags. Some things like gorgeous Majorca or like something like that. Or if I'm looking for a model somewhere, then I'll search Charleston model, hashtag Charleston model. Or
Yeah,
like
and you can actually pin down too. Like once you search, like I just got back from Boulder. And so I started out searching Boulder, Colorado, and then as I started seeing
like
more
hashtag
stuff,
Boulder, Colorado.
yeah, hashtag Boulder CO, right? Yeah. And then I dug a little bit deeper, and you get down that rabbit hole, and then you can eventually like pinpoint the hashtags that you actually like people actually use there. Like here, like for example, like if you wanted to search Charleston, I don't know. Oh yeah, CHS Eats, right? Charleston Eats, and that is what people hashtag for like the restaurant scene and the food and bev scene here. So you start finding that, like what restaurants do I want to eat at in Boulder, So I started searching around on hashtags.
Boulder
and found
Eats.
Boulder Foodie. And
Boulder Foodie.
Yeah, and exactly. And so that sort of helped narrow down some of the places we could eat.
That's pretty cool.
What do you normally use as hashtags for your post?
I don't know.
Do you have a system?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, so like
you have them in your notes and copy paste them onto your.
That's exactly what I do, and it just depends on what I'm posting. So if I'm posting travel stuff, then I have travel hashtags. If I'm posting Charleston bride stuff, then Charleston bride stuff. If I'm doing a destination wedding, then it's destination wedding hashtag.
So do you have all your travel everything on one Instagram page? Do you have Do you have a Finsta?
No, I don't know what that is.
Finsta is like a fake Instagram,
No.
but it's an Instagram.
We learned that from the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We interviewed our my assistant here, but she's out touring colleges. But she was telling us about Finsta. Well, I've known about her Finsta. I follow her Finsta, but basically that's where you have your normal Instagram where it's pretty, the aesthetic is pretty, like you use the same preset. It's like the colors are consistent, and then you have Finsta where you just spam Instagram with a bunch of photos and videos of just random stuff.
There's another photographer here in Charleston who does that.
Really?
Like she has her professional page, and then if you know her personally, then she has a private page under like a discreet name.
Ah, gotcha.
And that's where she posts like silly stuff like selfies and.
So who follows that fake? Just family and close friends.
Friends.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that one's probably private.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have a social media if I
No.
didn't do photography professionally, so I don't.
Yeah, I was telling a friend of mine the other day I wouldn't have an iPhone. I probably would have a flip phone if I didn't have this business.
Yeah.
But Instagram became like it's more like your second website now.
Mm-hmm.
I
It
updated
really
my
is.
website the other day
Do you really?
for the first time since 2014.
Yeah, I remember you talking about how you hadn't.
I haven't
Updated that in a long time.
updated it at all, and it's like a huge difference as far as the look and the photos on there. Like,
Yeah.
oh man, this wedding's got to go. This wedding's got to go. Because it's just the bridesmaids' dresses, for instance. Just you can tell sometimes how dated it is. Because one wedding was shot in 2012, and I still had it on there.
Yeah.
Do you update your website often?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I work pretty hard on my website.
Really?
I don't know how much of a difference that makes because, again, it seems like everybody finds me on Instagram or through coordinators, and then the first thing they'll talk about is like reviews somewhere. So I don't know how.
Reviews?
Yeah, like from wherever, like a Wedding Wire or The Knot or something. It's like it seems like people aren't using websites as often, at least in my experience. But
They're not, but I don't know if you noticed, my inquiries come through my website.
yeah, that's true. Mine do.
I mean, I'm getting
come through my
inquiries on
contact page.
Instagram, like messages and DMs,
Mm-hmm.
but like majority of people inquiring are from my website's contact page,
Yeah.
which
same.
means like, damn, they're looking at my website. That kind of led me to believe, or to think, be like, shoot,
Need
man,
to hurry.
I need to.
You said to me
Yeah,
a while
for
back,
1 week there, me and Grace were updating my website. Like, this wedding needs to go there. This wedding needs to go there.
A while back, you were like, I don't know, man. Kind of seems like websites are dead. And then I was like, man, I don't think so.
Well,
I
because
don't
everybody has.
disagree. I think by the time, and maybe I should interview my brides about this, but it seems to me that by the time they're on my contact page, and like on my website, like there's something else that got them 90% of the way, I guess. You know, like it's no longer like an introductory page, like a landing page. It's more like, this is where I got after I was already feeling pretty good about you. Like, this is where I got where I already felt like I probably need to contact this guy.
Yeah.
So by the time they made it to the website, it's game on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't there like a rule of marketing, like 5 times that they have to see you or your work, or 5 times they have to see a product 5 times before they finally pull the trigger?
It's funny you say that because in my experience, doing commercial stuff, they say the marketing rule of 10.
Is it marketing of
Yeah,
10,
yeah,
not
yeah.
5?
No, 10.
Every few years,
That's a
you
lot.
just bump it up
Yeah.
a few numbers.
Well,
Holy cow.
I mean, at this point, with the rush of information that's like
Right.
constantly in your face, 5 may not be enough anymore. Maybe it was 5.
That's a very good point.
I mean, it's just the amount of information.
That they're exposed to on a day-to-day basis.
I think it's
10 is huge. I mean, yeah, if you have if you can plan it out, and as soon as they walk out of the house, maybe a big billboard in front of them with your face in it.
Yeah, they said that. So I
That's
went to
one.
I went to some, like a conference or a workshop or whatever with some big media people, and they said that once you are tired of what it is that you're putting out there, you need to do it 10 times more. So that's what it was with that whole marketing rule of 10.
With attention.
10 times, yeah, exactly. 10 times more when you're tired of it, and then you can stop and switch to some other thing.
If you're the marketer, when you're tired of it as a
When you're
marketer,
tired of it, what it is that you're putting out. Yeah.
that makes
Because
a lot
that
of
means
sense.
that the average person hasn't. So I was working with commercials too, commercials and internet ads, right? So pop-up ads, banner ads, blah blah blah, the whole thing. So at that point, you've seen it so much, you're like, But I mean, you think how many times somebody just looks past it.
That makes a lot of sense.
So
It makes a lot of sense because it's I feel that way. I'm like, man, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of posting 3 times a day. But really, because of algorithms now at Instagram, not everybody sees your post 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Where do you think Instagram is going? Do you think it's gonna stay for a while? Are you on Facebook? You're on Facebook, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question. It seems like there's not a readily available rival right now as far as for photographers.
Right. Do you pay? Do you pay to play? Do you sponsor
No,
or
I've never sponsored
promote?
or paid for anything
no?
at this point. Maybe I should.
I mean,
I'm not actually technically. I'm not listed as a business on Instagram. Like it's just
on Instagram, it's
yeah,
just a
looks
personal,
like
right?
it
Oh, you
looks
haven't
like a
switched to the business account?
Mm-mm. Should I?
I mean, if you want to sponsor and stuff like that and promote, and then it gives you more statistics and stuff, analytics on Instagram story and Instagram, like how many people. Well,
it's great to know.
I don't know about the feed. If there's any statistics on the feed. I know on Instagram story you'll see how many people clicked out of your story, click forward.
There is on the feed. It's like how many, because you can change that button to whatever you want, like learn more or book now
There is.
or whatever.
Oh, when you
Yeah,
pay.
Yeah. When you pay on the
Yes.
sponsor one.
But
And
not
not just on regular feed.
regular feed.
Right, yeah, no, but when you pay, which is kind of cool because then, which is also kind of addicting because you could, like you're gambling, well,
Yeah.
I want to stick, this many dollars on, females 18 to 25.
Yes.
Or, whatever. And
It's a huge gamble. It's just like the old-fashioned way of advertising, phone book, newspapers, magazines. You spend money hoping that the phone will ring or
Yeah.
somebody will send you an email, "Hey, we want to hire you."
Yeah.
I think it's underpriced, especially Instagram story right now. You can hit a ton of people for $100. And it'll show you. I mean, I don't think it lies. hope not, but it'll show you.
I don't think it lies.
I mean, that would be a big scandal if they did, you know. But it'll show you if you spend $100, okay, 20,000 people saw your story.
Yeah.
So for 20,000 people, and don't quote me on this, for $100, I think that's
It's pretty good.
pretty inexpensive to
Guess not,
to put on someone's face, you know.
I'm jaded because of Facebook. Like Facebook businesses, there's no point to having a Facebook business page unless you're going to boost it. You know, like they throttled.
Right.
the
Yeah,
engagement
back
level.
All the
All
time.
the organic reach, like forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I've always, that's the biggest reason, or that's the only reason I should say, that I haven't switched from to Instagram business, is just because I don't want to deal with their eventual, I feel like it's an eventual organic reach throttle.
Yeah. Well, that, and yeah, with Facebook, I'm getting all kinds of messages and buttons. It's like, oh, this has performed 95% better than the other post.
Yeah, you should boost it.
Boost it. There's like so much stuff. It's overwhelming.
Yeah, it seems like they say that on every post too.
Mm-hmm. They are, yeah. And then when
They
you
can be
try to
awful.
promote and you change your mind, it's like, sure. And then they message you, and then there's a messenger. I think it's getting almost too much, but
They can't be all performing better than 95% of my posts, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I've seen statistics.
Yeah.
I know.
That doesn't work.
Yeah, but it's pretty crazy, man. I see a lot of ads. I think that's why it's all there now. Well, cool, man. Who's your favorite photographer? Do you have any inspiration? Who do you look at other people's work as far as current photographers, wedding photographers, or do you go back to 50s, 60s kind of genre?
Yeah, I do look at a lot of other photographers' work. I think one thing I'm always worried about is for my work to look exactly like what is popular right now, I guess what is trending. So I mean, there's definitely, I shoot film, obviously, as we point out. There's definitely like a film photographer look out there right now, and so I'm a little bit jaded not to follow just those people, I guess, and not to just draw inspiration.
What is that? What do you think is that film photographer look?
It's a Contact 645 shot at f2 with Fuji 400H.
Wow.
That's the common look.
That's it, right?
We could
So
easily,
it's
like, I could
specific.
easily spot that right now with
Mhm.
like the bride and groom foreheads
Oh, yeah.
together and
Yeah.
perfectly styled with the bouquet in the middle,
Yeah.
vertical shot.
That being said, I'm a big fan of Eric McVeigh's work, and he does that exact thing. So
Mhm. It's beautiful,
it's fantastic.
but you see it everywhere now.
Yeah, that's the downside, is that it feels like in every state there's 4 or 5 people who've mastered that look, and like the Jose Villa, the Eric McVeigh look, and so if you chase after that hard, like all you've really done, it seems like in my eyes, that you've achieved a level that everyone else has. And so like you're not really competing with your own brand, like you're just competing with the same brand that a bunch of other people are. So it seems like that particular look is a bit saturated.
So where are you trying to move forward as far as 2019? What's gonna be Stephen Atoe's look?
More of the same. I like my look, but I really like portraits. I like weirder portraits, and so I've never what's the word, broken up my Instagram. So
Yeah.
you see all the portraits and stuff on there too.
Well, what about following or inspired by photographers in the past or current? What photographers are you inspired by?
I like Ryan Muirhead, Elizabeth Messina, and Eric McVeigh, who I've already talked about.
Mm-hmm.
All of those for kind of different reasons. It seems like anything Messina posts is pretty out there. Like it's instead of like a single portrait, it'll be like no eyes, and the girl will be in like she posted one the other day where the girl was in like an Indian style, like legs crossed, like the kind of stuff you just don't see normally out of like a portrait or wedding photographer. So I like how she's doing some interesting things. I follow a really weird guy called Svatik, Cvatik, and essentially he goes to abandoned houses and shoots like individuals in like really really awkward positions, like a knee over a shoulder, like that kind of stuff. I think
Like he brings a model there.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So he's really wild now. And then I mean I already mentioned Eric McVeigh for more of his wedding and portrait work, which is maybe a little bit more standard. And then
I've seen a lot of your black and whites lately too. They look pretty nice.
thanks. Those are on Pentax 67.
Who are those inspired by? Like, or are those just your vision? And
That was just me, I guess. I didn't see anyone else who. I mean, everyone's done that. It's just black and white studio portraits on white paper in the background. But I just thought it'd be a lot of fun to just like shoot portraits one on one, like just me and a person, and like get back almost to like the essence of portrait photography in general, where you just have like a conversation with somebody and you kind of figure out like their beating heart as like a human being, and then you try and put that on film, you know, like just from the most simplistic portrait point of view, I guess. And so that's been a lot of fun. I've done 4 of those so far.
yeah, that's cool. I like them.
Thanks.
So we're about to finish up our podcast. I have to ask this question. So you have to complete this sentence, like, or you can ask you can answer the question. The question is, why are you a photographer? I'm a photographer because ...
So I'm a photographer because I love creating things. Like anytime I can do something new or create something, like that's totally. So if it's creating a story or putting a new idea onto a visual kaleidoscope or whatever, then I think that's really what has my heart beating. So like, you know, I started with music, and so it's the same basic concept of like you're creating music, and so just the transition over to photography with the kind of the same heartbeat of like I just love the process of creating, I guess.
And then the last question is, I shoot film because ...
I just love how unpredictable is the wrong word. Like film is digital tries its best to be an emulation of like what an exact emulation or whatever. Whereas film, because it's just chemicals that you're exposing to light, like there's a bit of like artifacts and a bit of unpredictability, and that is very interesting, and is in my eyes like more of an art, I guess. It's like you don't see it as you're going, so you're kind of creating the art from more of like a almost like a director point of view, like you're one more degree removed, I guess, of how you're creating the final image. Is like you say, you know, I want to meter based on this to create or achieve this or whatever. So, and then of course the artifacts like the grain and stuff is beautiful, I think. Let's see, that's when I shoot film.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. Actually, I lied. I have 1 or 2 more questions. We're probably going overtime. What's I should have asked this earlier because it's part of my outline whenever I'm interviewing someone. What are the struggles that you go through? Because you're essentially a business owner. What are the challenges? What are the struggles?
Of being a business owner?
Business owner, photographer, being an artist. Yeah, just a whole.
I think.
What do you struggle with?
I think we all struggle with self-doubt at some level, like as far as is what I'm doing, you know, really good, I guess, as far as art goes. I think you always struggle with that no matter how high or good you get. And it's like I think you question yourself. You say like, I really like this, like, but you know, I hope other people do, I guess. And so I think as you mature as an artist, or as you're in it longer, a lot of times you go through different stages of like, maybe you'll produce art that you think is more of the standard, so that it's more accessible for the regular everyday client or whatever, to purchase or to hire you or whatever. And then I think maybe as you go on maybe you get a little bit closer or truer to what you actually want to create. And I would say that's closer to where I'm wanting to be now. Is I want to create the art that I want to create, I guess.
Yeah.
I think as an artist, it's always like a give and take, because like at the end of the day, you still have to get hired. So, you can't get too crazy, I guess.
Right.
Probably.
That's a good one. I like that. So what advice would you give new photographers that are going into business?
It's really hard.
Because you're 6 years in now, going on 7 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You've seen it. You've seen it all. You're in the thick of it.
Yeah, when I first started out, I kind of alluded to this a second ago. I shot like a much brighter, light, bright, and airy style, and I specifically chose a budget range that I thought was more accessible for most potential brides, with the hope that I would book more, and I did. And I shot like 70 weddings in 2 years or something, which is pretty good amount. So I guess when I came in, and I did find pretty immediate success. I think in my third year, I shot 35. And I picked up a camera 2.5 years before that, or 2 years before that. And I think the reason I found pretty immediate success is because I picked a lane, and I was pretty dedicated to the entire vision of that lane, I guess. So like, if your goal is to quickly get a business up and going, I would say that's probably what I would advise.
What's that? Pick your lane, set a budget, pick your lane.
Yeah, like kind of
stay in it.
But I mean, it's the same thing as like a business plan. Like you're essentially you're looking where the market needs more people, and then what the market is wanting. And I decided that was a certain price or a certain budget, and light, bright, and airy.
And learn how to love it and master it.
Yeah, I mean, that would definitely be a way to go. I would also advise against getting too trendy. The light, bright, and airy is not too bad, because I think in general it's kind of more of a wedding look, because it's a happier look. It's as long as you're not over bright, as long as you're not overexposed or anything. But there are a few trends out there, like editing trends out there, that I feel like are highly unlikely to stick around for the next few years. So I would advise against doing those too.
Plus it's classic and timeless too, right?
Yeah. There's one in particular right now where they make the skin tones like really, really orange, and they desaturate the greens to like a ridiculous degree, and they look kind of like Oompa Loompas.
Is that the dark look you're talking about?
The dark and moody look?
Yeah.
Well, some of the dark and moody look, they just like really push the shadows, but the skin tones are still right. Mm-hmm. So I don't mind that one as much. The only problem I see with that one is that if you just sent me a random image and you said, this is from a movie, what's the movie about? I would say that's probably a horror film. I mean, that would be my only issue with that editing style, is that,
or like a mystery, or it's not a happy film.
Yeah, it's like, it looks like The Sixth Sense or some M. Night Shyamalan movie,
Yeah.
But the skin tones are still right, and so like I think in their minds, like it's more of like an intimate feel, like more of like a smaller room type feel, with like a single light kind of feel, and less of the wide open, light, bright, and airy, which feels more wide open. But the one that I'm picking on is like the orange skin tones. I just can't see that lasting for more than a few years, and then people are gonna be like,
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Really?
You have to send it. Yeah, you have to show me sometime after the podcast.
Like, I can pull up someone right now.
Yeah.
I can.
But then again,
I wouldn't call out a specific.
No, of course not.
But I have like.
Yeah.
But it's crazy that it's that wide of a trend.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I might know what it is.
So you guys know better than me. Like, how long has the dark and moody thing been around? Like, you would probably know, especially after 14, 15.
I mean, I think it started probably 5 years ago or so, maybe longer than that. But it's more out there now. Yeah, it's more like
I watched people change to it.
Yeah.
And
it's more
at first I was kind of like, ugh, why would you do that? But then I'm like, man, I kind of get it.
I think it's beautiful. It's more
really
of the
nice.
Seattle, Washington kind of
where it makes
Colorado.
Where it's dark.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, the Northwest.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to see it in the East Coast now. I mean, I feel like you can't help it when it's moody and cloudy and dreary out, yeah, you should deliver that look. But when it's sunny and happy and blue skies out, I don't think it makes sense to give that look. I don't know.
I mean, I guess
But-
it's just kind of the thing is when you were talking about like why you do photography and, you know, the art aspect of it, it's like, well, if you're, you know, trying to document the day as it was, that's one thing. If you're trying to, I don't know, put a touch on it, I don't know, it's
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, I saw an engagement session, and it was in Scotland, and it was the dark and moody look. I thought it looked fantastic.
Yeah,
So I'm not
I'm not opposed to it.
I'm not opposed to that either.
I'm. You know what I'm opposed to, and I've seen videographers do this, or even photographers, is when it's not real, when it's moody, and then you see the final product, and then they made it bright and airy. I'm like,
Oh.
it wasn't that.
Forcing something that wasn't there.
Right. I worked with a couple of videographers. When I saw the final video, I was like, it was raining that day. You made it look like it was sunny. Like it was super pushed too. It was very obvious. So I did not like that. I don't. That's yeah.
They
you know?
changed the white balance to make it warmer and
Yeah.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I remember the wedding was. I mean, it was almost dark. The sun almost set. And then when I looked at the video, it was like super bright. Because I was pushing 8,000 ISO on my camera. I was like, there's no way there was the video's turning out right now at the time. But yeah, when I looked at the final video, it's like super bright. It looked like it was 5 p.m. and the sun just about to set. I'm like, wow. So, but anyway, thanks for coming, man. I'm gonna give you opportunity to just kind of promote. What do you have anything to promote? Website, Instagram. Go.
Cool. So yeah, I mean, I've kind of already said it. It's just www.stevenatohi.com or my Instagram @stevenatohi, and that's pretty much it. That's
And you
about all
spell
I
that
have.
how?
STEPHENATOHI
And then your Instagram is
@STEPHENATOHI.
perfect, man. We got a gift for you, dude,
Sweet.
from my merch site.
Oh man.
You have to let me take a picture of you when you have to put it on, and then you have to let me take a picture of you.
All right.
But I know you probably just sold
that
your
candy?
AE one, but
No, I still have it.
you still have it.
Yeah.
I thought it was. I
have
said
it
it
up
was
for sale,
it was
yeah.
for sale, right?
Yeah.
So this is a large. I hope it fits, man.
Oh yeah, large.
It's
Perfect.
one of the softest
Thank you, man.
T-shirts that we have. With the hoodies that we just promoted this week, those are really nice too. They're like the softest hoodie. It feels nice. But thank you guys for listening. That was Steven Atohi. Check him out, and we'll see you next time.
bye.
Thanks, Josh.